Those players who have played World of Tanks for a long time would never ask questions about the tier balance between heavy and medium tanks. The answer was always obvious for them. In addition, the Tier 9 vehicles were quite powerful as well. However, the developers have said that they are finally planning to introduce the new tier of medium tanks. Furthermore, they have said that there will be no changes to the characteristics of the Tier 9 tanks. Instead, we will just meet even more powerful medium tanks. The age when the medium tank might be as useful for the team as the Tier 10 heavy tank is on its way. Can the fans of the medium tanks even imagine such dialogue? They have the IS-7, but we have the T-62. We can make it. This age will come soon. Tier 10 medium tanks are knocking on the doors of the server, and the gate will soon be opened. In this episode, we are going to take a closer look at the Tier 10 medium tanks and learn about all the changes between the Tier 10 and Tier 9 vehicles. The new era is here. The Tier 10 medium tanks, American, the Patton III. To begin with, we will take a closer look at the new Patton, the Patton III, which is also known as the M48A1. So what kind of tank is it, and what are its pros? The newest Patton has all the classical features of its predecessor. Perfect maneuverability, a good dynamic, the best gun stabilization in the whole tier, and an amazing view range. The design of the M48A1 is really similar to its relatives from the branch of heavy tanks, the M103 and the T110. This tank has the same hull and the same angled armor. The Patton is equipped with a perfect gun and, if we take all of its characteristics into consideration, this gun might be the best within the whole tier. It has a perfect penetration potential of 268, and a very fast reloading speed, even faster than its predecessor. This means that this tank offers a fabulous amount of damages per minute. In addition, this Patton doesn't suffer from the main drawback of the Tier 9 vehicle, the horrible accuracy. In contrast to the accuracy of the Patton Jr., which is only 0.42 meters, the accuracy of the M48A1 is 0.36 meters. As a result, this tank does not just have the best rate of accuracy while the vehicle is moving, but it is also one of the best rates while the vehicle is motionless. Our hero has its own cons, of course. This vehicle is really huge. We are not joking, the Patton III is even bigger than the T110. This means that if the Patton gets scouted, it is easy for enemies to shoot at. This tank is definitely not as small as the T-54. This means that sometimes you might want to use heavy tank tactics. You should hide behind the buildings or hill to stay in cover from the artillery. In comparison to the T-54 and the Bat-Chatillon, the Patton doesn't have as much complete freedom. However, the Patton has its own style, and this tank is still very powerful. All in all, the Tier 10 Patton is a fascinating vehicle. German, the E50 Ausf M. While the Patton III bears a lot of features of its predecessor, the E350 Ausf M shares even more similarities to the tank that came before it. The amount of armor is similar to the Tier 9 E50. This tank has the same engine as well as the same radio, suspension, and view range. Finally, like the E50, the German Tier 10 medium tank has the largest amount of hit points of any medium tank in its tier. This vehicle has a huge 2,050 hit points. However, the weight of this vehicle is lower, so the dynamic is better. The turret is located in the frontal part of the hull, making aiming very comfortable. Most importantly, the E50 is equipped with one of the most powerful weapons in the game. The accuracy of the gun is just 0.3 meters, while the aiming time is 2.1 seconds. The average penetration is 270 millimeters. This is the best rate throughout the whole tier. These characteristics mean that the E50 Ausf M is a fast, maneuverable, and truly deadly sniper, capable of destroying targets at any range. The Tier 9 E50 can suffer from problems with penetration with an average of 220 millimeters. However, the Tier 10 E50 Ausf M can easily penetrate any tank at almost any distance due to its high penetration potential. This is why the German medium tank is a very, very dangerous enemy. In addition, this tank is likely to be very popular on the global map. After all, super snipers are always required for teams. Soviet, the T-62A. The USSR Tier 10 medium tank is an unusual and interesting vehicle, but what are the main features of this tank? The T-62A and the T-54 are blood brothers, but there are a number of major differences between them. Let's start from the beginning. Firstly, the T-62A is bigger than the T-54. It is longer and wider than its predecessor. That is definitely the minus. However, the turret location is similar to that of the E-50 turret. It is located at the frontal part of the hull, and that is a plus. You will feel more comfortable, particularly in city areas. Secondly, in contrast to the T-54, the T-62A is not the best scout out of the Tier 10 medium tanks. The engine is only 580 horsepower. As a result, the movement is slower, because the total weight of the tank is much greater due to its larger size. In addition, in comparison to the T-54, which can easily reach 56 km per hour, the speed limit of the T-62A is only 50 km/h. Yes, the difference between the vehicles may be 6 km per hour, but it is still important because any advantage in speed can help you on the battlefield. For example, you can reach the enemy artillery and scout it very fast. And thirdly, the T-62A has the big problems with its armor. Just like the T-59, this tank has only 100 mm of frontal armor. It is very low amount of armor. Even the T-54 has 120 mm. However, the developers balance this out with the turret, which has 240 mm of armor and perfect angles. The T-62A is not a frontline fighter. T-62A drivers will be much better off using dynamic skirmishing tactics for this reason. Players should use the maneuverability and gun power rather than relying on the armor to take damage. But this does bring us onto the weapon. At long last, a Soviet medium tank has been equipped with an amazing gun. The T-62A is equipped with the D-54TS, complete with stabilizers and other useful features. This means that not only does it have high aiming speed and the perfect stabilizers while the vehicle is moving or reversing, it also comes with the damage easily comparable to the DPM of the other Tier 10 medium tanks. You should note that the base damage of this gun is not that large. The weapon can deal 320 damage. The thing that makes it great is the rate of fire, which is about 9.0 rounds per minute. This makes it really amazing because you can shoot an enemy every 5 seconds. The big base damage might be useful in some situations, of course. However, nobody could deny that it is really useful to keep an enemy's heavy tank without tracks, especially if the inexperienced player didn't train the repair skill. The T-62A is ideal to fulfill such task. As for other characteristics, the developers have balanced this vehicle very well. The tank is no longer a highly specialized vehicle. Instead, it just has good all-around characteristics. Quite good armor with the powerful gun and dynamics of a medium tank. Developers didn't go with the usual rule of a Soviet MT is a fast scout with a horrible weapon. Instead, they have introduced us to a new type of Soviet medium tank. It is quite fast, well-armored, and a very accurate vehicle. Players should love this new type of Soviet medium tank if only because it offers more variety to the T-54. After all, there were far too many of them on the battlefield. French, the Bat Chatillon. For the French tanks, a somewhat different strategy has been adopted. Instead of getting a brand new Tier 10 vehicle, the developers have transferred the Bat Chat to the 10th tier. Of course, a few improvements have been made. Firstly, this tank has a larger amount of hit points. While the Bat Chat still has the lowest amount of hit points for its tier, the 1,800 hit points might help players to survive a bit longer. There are no other changes in this tank except the weapon. Yes, instead of the 100mm gun, the Bat Chat is now equipped with the 105mm gun. This weapon both looks and feels very different. Despite the fact that the new gun is shorter than the 100mm gun, its characteristics are stunning. Instead of the 6 shells, the French medium tank has 5 shells in the automatic loader. Each shell can deal 390 damage. Reloading of the automatic loader takes 37.5 seconds, while the reload inside the automatic loader takes 2.7 seconds. It should be noted that the developers have also buffed the aiming speed and the stabilizers of the Bat Chat weapon. The Bat Chat is able to shoot an enemy in movement now. In addition, you definitely will not be bored with waiting for aiming while your vehicle is motionless, and the aiming time after gun elevation or vehicle reversing has been decreased as well. Most importantly, the Bat Chat can deal 2,000 damage using the power of its 5 shells. In addition, the average penetration is 259mm. What does this mean on the battlefield? It means that the Bat Chat can destroy almost any Tier 9 heavy tank one-on-one. Or it can render any Tier 10 heavy tank powerless, because a heavy tank with only a low amount of hit points left should be running for the hills. However, this only works when every shell penetrates the target. Beware of platoons that contain 3 Bat Chats, for they have the power to bring the apocalypse by dealing 6,000 damage with only 3 vehicles. This power is enough to destroy other platoons or to help your team to clear the flanks from the enemy. However, it is still quite hard to play the Bat Chat effectively. Only experienced players will be able to use this tank at its full potential. The Tier 9 medium tank owners are both afraid and looking forward to the Tier 10 MT release. The players don't want to leave their favorite T-54, M46 Patton, or E-50. On the other hand, the Tier 10 MT might be very interesting vehicles. The players are afraid of the nerfs on the high-tier guns. However, the developers will not nerf the penetration and damage of the guns. The Tier 9 medium tanks will own hard due to the narrower tier spread. Instead of the Tier 9.5, these vehicles belong to the Tier 9.0, but the developers should nerf something, shouldn't they? Yes, they should. Firstly, the Tier 9 MTs haven't got the amazing amount of hit points anymore. Their amount is equal to the hit points of the other Tier 9 vehicles. So the difference between the Tier 8 and the Tier 9 medium tanks is not so big. Secondly, the developers have nerfed only a few characteristics. The reversing speed of the E-50 was nerfed as well as its accuracy and rate of fire. The developers have nerfed the Patton's view range and its stabilizers for shooting on movement. But what is more interesting, the developers haven't nerfed the T-54. They have actually buffed this vehicle. The players will feel themselves more comfortable at the T-54 with the stock equipment. Furthermore, the developers have buffed the stabilizers of the gun. It seems that the developers have listened to the complaints regarding the weaknesses of the Soviet MT. You will meet these changes in the 7.5 update. However, it is not the end. In the next episode, we will take a closer look at the Tier 10 tank destroyers and learn all changes of the Tier 9 TDs.